Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Educate podcast. I'm joined today with Ariana. How's it going?
Going great. How about yourself?
Awesome, good, doing well. Thanks for jumping on. I know we connected on social, and I think our social media manager was in touch, and then obviously I'm trying to do this podcast, and there's only so much of me that goes around, but it's a pleasure connecting. And maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into education, and then we can go from there.
Of course. Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor. Well, I teach eighth grade science right now at a middle school. Soon to go into high school. That'll be next year. Though I started off as a military wife, so I got married very young, and we kind of did things backwards. We had a family first, and then I was going to college and school while I was raising my family. Lots of odds and end jobs just to kind of find my way. But in college, I knew I wanted to have a science major. So during that time, I was close to graduating college. I had my kids as well as my education, and I needed to find a good balance with that. And it wasn't until, and again, I worked a lot of odd jobs. I taught an MMA style fitness class on the military base where we lived. And that's where my passion for teaching came about. And I thought, I love that I can show these women and these people who come in their strengths and what their potential really looks like. And I worked with people who were very shy and, did not want to really try or expand on their skills. And finding that I had the power to teach people that you have the power to do that yourself. I wanted to kind of mix that with science. So that's why I'm here now. I teach secondary, so older grades, but I've long-term subbed and everything prior to just to get my foot in the door. But it meshes well with my kid's schedule, and I get to do what I love on both ends.
Nice. I love that. I don't think we've had a science teacher on yet, so I am fascinated with all things science, especially STEM related. We have a lot of our audience asking for more STEM products. Um, how's middle school science, eighth grade science? What's kind of the day to day like, and the culture of the class?
So culture of my class, we are very fast moving. The kids come in and they know they're going to work bell to bell. But what's interesting, the way that I structure my class, they don't feel like they're doing work. Like the day does not drag on. I've had a lot of days where the kids look up and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the bell's about to ring. How? We just got here." And the key is you just keep the pace moving and you keep them intrigued with things that they're interested in. And most importantly, in middle school, hands-on all the time, a lot of the time. I do a lot of labs, even if it's just with like little knickknacks and things that I can muster up. Some of the stuff I do purchase myself. That way I have tweezers in my room right now that we use for, natural selection labs. So that's really the key. And I came into middle school understanding that middle school is a time to get kids really excited about science. That way, when they go into high school, they can pick the higher level classes, and that way they can get to the nitty gritty of the science when they get there. But I do use a lot of Eduprotocols. They are lesson frames, and that's what helps me to have all this time to plan these labs and these lessons. And that way the kids are intrigued too, because it's constant collaboration and communication, and they're using creativity to the fullest within this.
I love that. You mentioned edu protocols. I've seen that around, but I'm not sure what it is. Can you explain that?
Of course. So Eduprotocols, they were created by John Crippo and Marlena Hebern. There are books out there, but they're free. They're free to everybody. We call ourselves oversharers. So you can probably search up Eduprotocols on Twitter and get templates. There's also websites you can get free stuff on too. But they're essentially a lesson frame. Think of it like a vehicle or a container that you're going to put your content in. And that container is going to have a place where students can practice and rep out their skills while they're learning the content as well. And when you start off with Eduprotocols, you want to start off with something silly and fun. You can do there's an article that John Crippo likes to use. It's called like Gorilla versus Godzilla. Who has bigger poops? Or sorry, it's Godzilla versus King Kong. That's what it is. Who has bigger poops? And like, it's a scientific article because it gives different amounts of data, but it's fun and it's silly. And you plug things like that at first to get the kids interested and intrigued. And then you start to insert your content, what your standards that you're trying to teach. And essentially it's the same skill that they're repping out. So they're getting better and better at the scientific skill or the writing skill or the math skill while they're learning the content.
Interesting. I definitely have to check that out. I think I might have landed on the site before, seen it trend on Twitter, but never got into it. What are some fun science projects you guys have done so far this year? Like,
Oh, we've done a lot. So I like to do things with food because, middle
uh,
schoolers, they're hungry, growing beans. So we do a lot of things with like Oreos and gummy bears. They built wave machines out of skewers and gummy bears and duct tape, and then they get to eat it when they're done. We did moon phase models with Oreos. And then we did, I actually teach an elective class, but it's very science-based as well. I had them build some house models, and they had to build a 2-room house, and they had to construct from scratch, like no kits, no nothing. I literally cut up Christmas lights and gave them batteries and said, all right, you need a series circuit in one, a parallel circuit in
wow,
the other room, and make it happen, be creative. So they did that. A lot of students chose refrigerators like to be open, and that's what they lit up, like in your house when you open the fridge, right? So they got to use a lot of creativity because it's very open-ended type of labs that I do, but they get to discover and experience the true science while they're doing those open-ended things.
interesting. I love that. Where do you think the future of STEM education, more specifically, or science in general, is going to be? Obviously, I think a lot of the attention and focus is for more kids, especially more girls, to go into science and STEM based. But where do you see the future of the education category?
So I see a lot of problem-based lessons happening in the future because if you think about it, we now have NGSS standards, so now next generation science standards, and those were put in place mainly to teach kids about the scientific skills. So how do you ask questions? How can you evaluate data and effectively put together an argument based on what you know to be true, based on these facts that you've created through these labs? So I feel like giving them more problem-based, more things that they can relate to, that they genuinely care about, and then them conducting their own investigations around it. I think that's where science is truly headed. It's no longer, here's the vocab, here's a picture of a cell, label it, and now we're going to move on, right? We need to keep it very hands-on, very intriguing, because the students we have in our room today, they're going to solve tomorrow's problems, and they need to be able to know how, especially with all this technology and all of these things, coming up to light in our world right now. Think about AI, right? You have to know how to be able to effectively use it and question and evaluate in order to proceed.
Yeah, it seems like every decade there's a monumental change, a shift, whether it was internet, mobile phones, and now AI. Um, just my cousins are already telling me, "Hey, I'm doing my essays with this, and I'm solving problems with this, and I don't know if I should be worried or happy that they're figuring this stuff out." So definitely monitoring it. Um, are eighth graders at that age where they're so tech savvy that sometimes it feels like you have to catch up to them, or is that more high school level and they don't know some of that
I
stuff?
mean, I feel like I teach them a lot of tricks within, because we use Chromebooks here, right? So I teach them a lot of tricks that way, but they do like never say never, right? They surprise me. They're like, oh, in order to do this, you just hit this button, then you drag it over. I'm like, what? I had no idea. So
Yeah,
they're still teaching me things. My eighth graders haven't exactly explored the realm of AI yet, not that I know of. But I do incorporate it when I am planning lessons, and I say, hey, like the computer generated this for us. And I had it put in some errors, like find the errors. Where's the computer wrong? But if you think about it, I do point out that, when they're texting, you have those, the sentences that'll pop up or the words you can use next. They're already using AI because they're always on their cell phones, when they want to sneak it in here and there. So the tools are out there, and even if you think they're not using it in some way, shape, or form, it's present, it's there in their face.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of shifting gears on your overall purpose, passion, mission for this. I know you mentioned kind of starting out from MMA to science, and then you kind of developed that passion for teaching. And but how about now specifically with science? Like, what's the purpose for these eighth graders?
So my purpose is that they see themselves within this content, within these skills that you want students to have within the science realm. I know I've been to quite a few conferences, and I get to hear people talking about science or how to teach science. And, you know, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anyone by all means, but I feel like people want to take so much control over what the students are experimenting with and questioning within science, or what content they're learning, that it's taking away from the natural inquiry or problem-based the way science should be ran. So I think that what my passion is I really want students to understand the skills that science requires. So questioning, again, objectively looking at evidence, it all comes down back to all of that. If you can question and you can predict things, and you have the resources to plan these investigations and go on and do these things yourself, like there's no stopping you in what you can figure out and what you can do. And then going back to, you had mentioned, how can we get more girls or women involved in STEM? If we can get the kids, no matter the gender or nationality, to look at this content and these skills we're teaching, and they can see themselves, they can see the problems that they can help themselves or their families or their communities, I mean, you're going to go very far with that. So that's my passion. I want all kids to see themselves in the science realm. And even if they're not, at least have those skills to objectively move forward in life.
Yeah, I love that. And the next question goes into uh, foundational skills for elementary students, specifically middle school students, to like, what foundational things do they need to have in order to be successful in high school and post high school? I know you mentioned, questioning, inquiring, critical thinking, objectivity, discovering the truth. Is there other things that are foundational skills that can be added to that?
I would say just enhancing the skills that they already have as kids. I mean, they're already naturally curious creatures, asking why all the time. And instead of channeling it to, okay, no more questions, like how about we channel that into other lessons where we can start to expand and build on that. Another thing I think would help would be maybe working more with looking at physical data like graphs and data tables, and understanding how things are organized within. I think that would be a great help. I mean, we still do it here in eighth grade. I still teach them what is a graph and how does it look like, even if they know or they don't. I just want them to master it, because at this point, they're still improving on those skills. They're not going to become masters until, let's face it, we're all still learning even as adults. So just and also the growth mindset. That way they know they're not done. They got to keep improving upon their skill. Just because something seems perfect or you got an A on it, like there's more to it than what you've learned within this one day of class.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And as I am navigating my learning journey and self-discovery and just trying to navigate life for myself, like you said, we're all learning. I don't think education stops. Not my platform that I'm on the most to engage is Twitter. Um, but sometimes it seems like, and a lot of the scientists are there, and the figures that we look up to, um, and it seems like sometimes they don't agree on narrow facts, and it's like so many times it's a perspective, just like a different angle at looking at something can change the entire ball game, so to speak. Um, is there a right way to thinking about truth, objectivity, in the sense of it's really, really hard to get that truth right, like, um, once and for all. But we're trying to be less and less wrong, or like develop more theories around how I can be less wrong instead of saying I'm right, you're wrong. Is there some truth to that, and like how do we navigate in that world where there's seems like something trends on Twitter and it seems true, and then there's a counter argument, there's a counter argument to that. What are kind of your thoughts around that? I know it's a lot, but would love
No,
to.
I totally hear what you're saying. And I see it even in class. Like a lot of the students want to say, no, I'm right, you're wrong. Here's my evidence, like mic drop, right? And I quietly go over and pick up the mic and say, no, you're not done yet. Because this is in science. Yes, we have all these facts and these data, and you did the research and you have this textual evidence. This person over here is now showing you this is another data set that relates to your original hypothesis, and it kind of conflicts with what you're saying. So how are we going to go about that? You know, so I really try to strive to show them, yes, create that argument using evidence, but you also need to have that open mind, because someone else is going to come in and have some more compelling data, or maybe data that kind of cancels out what you did. And that's why we got to be able to, again, have that growth mindset, be able to conduct that investigation multiple times, so that way we're not just stuck in this one-way street type of thinking. And with science, that's why I try to connect it as best I can, for the students into multiple avenues of culture and community problems. And, how can we use this data to help and support? Like, we don't want to use data to bring people down. How are we going to use it for good? So I think just having that mindset really helps.
Yeah, that's really key. Especially as I feel like we might get more and more divisive online. I think the intentions are good, and I think in the long run it shapes our mental mind like better. But sometimes it feels like it's just back and forth for no good reason. A few of our policies or values at our company is like radical transparency and radical open-mindedness. So we want to be like put everything on the table, nothing behind closed doors, like either with employees or with customers or whoever that we're dealing with. And then open-mindedness, like yeah, we have ways of doing things, but we never think that that can be the only way or that's the right way. It's the way we're doing it now and it's working. But if you have a better idea, please bring it. If you disagree, please tell us. Like, we want to get better. I feel like that that can be summarized
Yeah.
in growth mindset.
That's where with science too, like I said, even if my kids don't go into the science field, at least these skill set can help them with any avenue they take. And a lot of kids, it was funny, when we started doing labs at the beginning of the year, they would make hypotheses about the lab, but then their data would come back and show that it did not support what they originally predicted. They wanted to erase that real quick and like put in the correct one. I'm like, no, you don't erase it. There is no wrong or right answer in science. It's just, what is the data directing you to? And then that's where we have those fun like arguments with our data, and we kind of share out and compare. And it's very open-ended, which as it should be, because the world is always changing. We're always discovering new things. So you
I
need
love
those.
that. Cool. I love that. Cool. Well, I appreciate this, and I'm tapping into my science just brain. I sometimes I go away from that and I get pulled away with other subjects, and I'm interested and curious in learning, but I need to get back into my science roots. How about for yourself? Like, if people want to connect with you, or even if you're working on other cool side projects that you'd like to share, anything that you'd like to share with our audience, how either they can get value from you or what you can provide them. How can they connect with you, and what can you share with us on that point?
Well, I'm called an overshare. It's kind of like an inside thing with the Eduprotocol community. Every day when we're in school, I share everything we're doing in class, just to kind of give educators other ideas. So on Twitter, my handle's at Ariana K Hearn. So you can find me there. I also post a lot on the Eduprotocol community Facebook page. That's all it's called, is Eduprotocol community. I believe we have 8,000 people on there, teachers, and we're a type of group. There's other like-minded educators like me. Not just with science, there's also other, so language arts, social studies, math, you name it, it's there. If you have a question on a lesson or can't quite figure out how to move forward to get the kids involved in the things we kind of talked about today, you can ask it on that page, and within 2 hours, you'll have like multiple responses on different ways and templates to use.
Wow.
So pretty awesome.
Wow. Well, I love that. That's one of my inspirations for starting this is like we can be I've had conversations with people from Africa, Spain, like different parts of the states, obviously, and like I feel like education is gonna permeate more so on the internet and through these conversations, and hopefully your guys' stories, your communities, your socials. So thank you very much for jumping on and just sharing a little bit about who you are, what you're doing. Hopefully we can do this again and kind of maybe bring other teachers and have like I don't know, just I don't know, free flowing conversation that helps people get value out of what other teachers are doing. So
For sure, I'd love to. I like to connect digitally because your PLC is so much bigger than just at your school site. You got to branch out, bring those other great ideas back. So I for sure would love to do that. Thanks for having me.
yeah, absolutely cool. Well, I'll leave your links in the description below, and hopefully we can connect. I'll for sure join that community and start engaging, and hopefully some good comes out of it.
Sounds great.
All right, thank you so much, Ariana. We'll chat soon.
Thank you.